The desert called Iron Vale wasn't a place, it was a punishment. Wind shaved rock into razors and left the ground glossed like cooled slag. Our convoy had 1 mile of bad ground left before the northern shelf, and my platoon was the hinge that had to stay until the hinge broke. I'm Dane Harlow, Sergeant, 49th, male, 38, old enough to have learned patience, young enough to still be mean when it counts. The enemy were Vyrdek, glass-shelled, long-limbed, doctrinal to the bone. They didn't charge. They balanced. Remove a sensor, remove a shooter, remove the will. We had a berm that was more suggestion than wall, a comms needle that leaned like a drunk, 2 skimmers that hated us, and a lieutenant named Brant Ives, who issued orders like math proofs, clean, short, and right. Short volleys, Ives said. Make them measure us. Dawn came up iron gray. The first Vyrdek crested the southern knuckle, shining like bottles in a ditch. We let them see our flash, then made them miss our heat. 2 round pairs, shift, 2 more. Their counter needed 6 volleys to find our heavy. On the 7th, the turret sang its last and fell silent, with the tidy efficiency I hated them for. I touched the remote in my pocket. In the night, I'd wired the dead ground behind us with mirror fleas, shards of visor glass on dental wire, baited with fingertip heaters from medkits. No sane defender wastes charges where there's nothing to defend. Good. We weren't sane today. The Vyrdek drifted left to our obvious weak corner. Their forward guards' carapaces cooled from pale to blue. They were sliding their range in. I thumbed the switch. The empty ground behind us woke into a crooked sun. Heat licked air where no man stood. The mirrors threw dawn back wrong. 1 missile curled into dirt and kicked a black flower. Another fusillade stitched their own flank. Their line, perfect as a surveyor's dream, hiccuped. Now, Ives said, and the platoon moved because the word matched what our teeth wanted. We vaulted the berm, ate the ditch, and hit them in the blink between doctrine and correction. A bayonet ripped the seal under a Vyrdek gorget and spilled coolant like smoke. A skimmer slid low, belly glowing. My last edge charge went up its intake and turned the air into needles for a heartbeat. They recovered without telling you they had. A wedge formed, sharp as intent, and an officer stepped into the breach. Not taller, not brighter, just carrying calculation like a weapon. The line behind him stilled the way wire stills before it snaps. He didn't waste motion. The first strike found the seam of my left plate and changed breathing into arithmetic. The second put a bell in my head. He expected me to back up so his geometry could complete. I stepped in so it couldn't. Close doesn't forgive. We turned like knives in a drawer. My shoulder found the joint under his arm, my knife found the gasket under his jaw and skated. His elbow found my ear and rang me like a bowl. I used the ring. I shoved him into the wreck of the skimmer, jammed my rifle under the lip of his shell, and pulled until the chamber came home empty. He went heavy. I kept pressing, because quitting is a habit you learn only once. 2 minutes, the net coughed. Convoy says 2 to the shelf. We gave the Vale yards like coins, 1 for 10 seconds, 2 for 20. The mirror fleas dimmed. The fake heat cooled. The Vyrdek finished blinking and started writing us out of the math again. Make it cost, Ives said, calm as a recipe. We had 1 honest shape left on the field, the leaning comms needle. I'd set charges in its ankles because symmetry whispers and the Vyrdek loved the sound. They reached for it like men reach for a final rung. I double-tapped the detonators. The mast knelt with grace and cut a new trench across their wedge. Shards and wire hissed. Their clean line kinked. The cheer that rose from our berm wasn't pretty and didn't need to be. It was the sound your ribs make when you decide to stay standing. Last truck clear, the net reported, words rolling across the vale like warm rain. The Vyrdek didn't rage. They subtracted themselves, careful as bookkeepers, line by line, until all that stayed were the shapes the wind kept and the stink of hot metal. I took shade against the half-melted base of the mast and counted holes in the sky until my hands remembered stillness. Ives crouched, pried at my plate, and studied my face like a carpenter checks a beam for true. "You holdin', Harlow?" "Enough to be useful. That's the only kind we pay for." We held Iron Vale. The road stayed a road, and not a grave. In somewhere north, kids would wake under roofs with names because we wrote our stubborn arithmetic on this glass and refused to round down. If they come again, and they will, we'll add one more man to their problem and then another, until their math learns shame. Near my boot lay the Vyrdek officer's tally crystal. I picked it up. It chimed once, surprised to be touched by warm hands. I slid it into my pocket and stood up into the wind. Pride isn't loud. Pride is the way your hands don't shake when the numbers say they should. We packed what mattered and left what didn't. The veil took our footprints and made them rumors. Pass. Held.